Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome. For those of you who don't know me yet, who haven't met me yet, my name is Nina Urman. I'm a life coach and facilitator, an executive coach working with leaders from all around the world. I mostly work with executives, with CEOs, and also with high achieving women and moms. And my mission is to raise the individual as well as the collective level of awareness, helping people to experience life to the fullest, to live extraordinary lives on all levels. I have a very holistic approach in my coaching and my facilitations. I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to connect with you today. I'm excited that you're here, even if you're watching the recording of this talk. It's always in the present moment. The only moment that exists is now. So I just want to welcome you. I want to tell you how much I honor that you're here and that you're investing this time in yourself and your personal development. Today's topic, we called it emotional mastery, how to master our emotions. So emotions are kind of a tricky thing. When I talk about emotions, feelings, and I use these terms interchangeably to, CEOs and leaders and executives, often they tell me, oh, Nina, okay, this whole touchy feeling stuff, let's just pause and let us get to the real stuff. What about goals? What about results? What about actions? And it's interesting because one of the things I always tell them is emotions, and I want you to write them down. Take your notebook and write this down. Emotions are actually creating and driving all of our actions. All of our results, whatever we create in the world out there, is actually driven by our emotions, right? So today I want you to give yourself the space to experience your emotions and to connect with yourself on a deeper level, right? If you have your journal out, write some of these things down, because when we write, we actually experience, not when we're typing, but when we're writing something down, we actually experience kind of an emotional vibration connection to it, and it stays with us longer, right? So write with the same intensity as it would put the paper on fire and follow me. I don't have any slides for you. I want you to be with me the whole time and listen to my voice and experience whatever it is you want to experience today. I'll give you a lot of wisdom. I'll give you a lot of practical tools as well, how you can master your emotions. So I don't want you to miss any of it. And my intention is really to be kind of the catalyst for your growth. Today, we're going to focus on emotions, but of course, everything is interconnected, right? I feel like there's nothing more important than learning these materials and then sharing them with the world. And I know that, if you get this and you write it down and you study it, then it will have a ripple effect on the world. I believe that mastering your emotions, mastering yourself is really the key to not only achieving your goals and discovering what's possible for you, but also to the most alive life that you can lead. Like, this has been my life's work. I have spent more than 15 years studying different authors and philosophers and spiritual teachers and neuroscientists to understand what it means to live a full and conscious and fulfilled life on all levels, right? Because some people feel like, oh, I have this great career, but my relationships are not where they're meant to be or where they wanted them to be. Or in some have amazing relationships, but not a great career, or they feel like they're not fulfilled or self-actualized. And some have both, but then no time for their well-being and health. And so that one suffers. And some seem to have it all, but then they feel like they don't have any purpose in their lives. So I work with people in a very holistic approach. And why I chose this theme today is that I have been supporting people around the world, coaching them how to manage their mind and process their emotions and take actions and create goals in their lives, what I notice is that on the outside, we're all very different, right? I've traveled the world and I spoke to so many people, and I noticed like, okay, there's different skin colors and there's different social backgrounds. And, I'm half Russian, half German. I'm living now in Paris with my half American, half French husband. I mean, there's so many different nationalities, and this is the richness of the world, right? But on the inside, kind of all want the same thing, right? When you really dig deep. And I want you to think about for yourself, like, what is it that you really want? What do we want more than anything in our lives? It's the one thing that kind of changes everything, the one that everybody actually wants, right? On the outside, so different. On the inside, we all want the same. We wanted more than money. In fact, that's the reason we want money in the first place. We wanted more than a great career. We wanted more than being beautiful or thin. We wanted more than success. It's the one thing that we all want without exception. The one thing that actually changed everything for me when I figured this one out. It helped me stop procrastinating, stop making excuses, stop hiding. And I started living my very best life with more success and more money and more freedom and more accomplishment than I ever imagined when I figured this one out. And it wasn't always this way, right? I used to dream about the life I have today, and I struggled with insecurities and fears and anxieties. And today I know it's all part of it. But I discovered the one thing that changed everything, and I want to share it with you today. What do we all want? We all want to feel better. And it's so simple. And I discovered the process of how to feel better. This is what we ultimately want. So people come to me for guidance, and their usual ask is, how can I have a better life experience? Right? When you drill it down, it's like, okay, like I want the money because I want to feel better. I want my kids to go to college because then I'll feel better. Even when we wish it for somebody else, actually, when you drill it down, it's always about how you're going to feel when this thing comes. But again, people don't want to talk about feelings, especially, in our busy world where everybody's running and doing things. They don't want to talk about the being, because feelings are a lot about the being. That's about the vibration that we're experiencing, right? Now we want to do the more realistic, the more important things. We can focus on feelings when we're not so busy. And it's really important to notice a couple of things about feelings. And again, I want you to write them down. So first of all, as I said before, feelings drive every single action that we take. Let me say this again. Feelings drive every single action that we take. So if we want to take actions that are creating a life that we love, we're maybe building a business or running an organization, impacting the world, whatever it is, making money, healing relationships, producing results, we have to pay attention to our feelings. This is like the first step. You have to pay attention to your feelings because they will always be driving the action, which means that this will determine exactly how successful you are in any area. This is true for relationships. This is true for the relationship with yourself. Feelings drive all of our actions. This is the first thing. Now, the second thing that I want to tell you is that, and this is really interesting because when I say people don't get it right away, so I want you to really focus. Feelings are also the reason why we do or don't do anything and everything. So they drive all of our actions, but also it's because of everything we do in life is because of how we think it will make us feel by having it. Right? I alluded to this earlier. It's kind of the same idea, but in different directions, right? Feelings drive my actions, but it's also the result that I'm promising myself is going to be linked to the feeling that I want to experience on purpose in the having of it, right? So everything that we think we want in life, every result that we think we want in our life is because of how it will make us feel. I want you right now, you can do this, when you have a quiet moment, but even now, like just imagine what is it that you would love so much, an amazing dream, like imagine it, envision it right now. And think about what is the feeling that you would most want to have when you reach your vision. right now. I just want you to close your eyes and just focus on that. I bet the reason why you want that thing is because of a feeling that you'll experience. And I want you to kind of figure out that feeling. It doesn't even have to be for yourself. It can be world peace. It can be anything. It can be for your children, for your spouse, anything that you want to create, anything you want to have happen is because of how you think it will make you feel. This is fascinating. Now, stay with me a little bit. And it gets a little bit trickier for the brain because we're like, okay, now what's the strategy plan? Tell me what's the strategy plan? How do I actually experience the feeling? Now, whatever you're feeling, whatever you think you're gonna have as a feeling when you get there is actually the feeling that you need to generate in order to achieve it, right? So we think the feeling is the result. Why? Actually, the feeling generates the result, right? You with me? It's almost like feeling is driving off actions. Our actions create the result, and in the result is also the feeling that we're promising ourselves. And if you don't understand, if you don't know that whatever it is that you want, you can actually generate it right now. You can actually have it right now. By using your mind, by using your thought, by managing your mind power, you'll always be wanting, you'll always be pushing that horizon away from you. You'll never be able to enjoy the present moment. You'll always want to skip the feeling and get to the part where you're successful and rich and happy and have all the relationships, whatever it is you want. You want to skip the feeling part because you just want to do stuff, not recognizing that the only reason you want all of it is because of how you feel. So I think that's kind of the first big lesson that I want you to reflect on and integrate. Everything we want is because how we think it will make us feel, and all of our feelings are driving all of our actions. So that's why it's so important to pay attention to what we're feeling, what feelings are. And one of my teachers and mentors, Sonia Shaked, she always says that, there's only one thing to do with feelings, and it's to feel them and experience them. Yeah. So I'll show you how you can feel your feelings on purpose, and also how you can generate feelings that you maybe don't even believe yet, right? Because another thing that I want to tell you right away is that where do feelings come from and what is an emotion? Let's dive in that. They're all produced in your thoughts first. It's all about entering into your consciousness. So when you think about emotions, what are emotions? How do we define them? I want you to think about it like, what is that emotion? How would we describe a feeling and emotion to an alien that comes to us from from a different planet and doesn't understand, doesn't feel happiness or sadness or anger or frustration? How would you define it? And the easiest way to explain to a person that doesn't experience a feeling is to go to your body, right? Feeling is a vibration in your body. It's a vibration that, goes through your body, caused by a sentence in your mind, caused by a thought. And I think it's very powerful to talk about experiencing the emotion as a vibration in our body, so we can actually watch ourselves experience that emotion. And there's so many emotions, right? I always show my clients the wheel of emotions there's in no way a full list, because there's so many different layers of emotions. And now our language has become much more complex about emotions. A lot of times we'll even make up words that describe emotions perfectly for us, or we use film analogies, or something from the movies, or something for poetry to kind of show other people, oh, this is how I feel. So the point of emotion is to identify the experience in your body and recognize that it's just a vibration. And the other thing that I really want you to kind of to see in contrast is a sensation, like the difference between sensation and emotion. If I would, caress you, or you'd stub your toe, for instance, you would hit your toe, the way it flows, it just goes from your body to your brain, right? The sensation flows. Oh, the information goes, okay, and now somebody has touched me, and that information goes very quickly to the brain. But with emotions, it's different. It's they travel from the brain to the body, right? Sensations are like hunger or fullness or tiredness. If it's physical tiredness, you can experience hot, cold, nauseous, pain if it's physical pain. Those are all sensations. And if you think about, hurting your toe, for instance, as I said, the nerves will send out that sensation up to your brain, will let you know, you're experiencing pain right now. Versus emotions, they start with a thought, they start with that sentence in your brain, maybe you're frustrated, and it can be actually the same event, right? You could be, I shouldn't have stubbed my toe. You shouldn't have hurt myself. I'm so stupid. Where am I walking? And that is the difference, right? That's a thought that is traveling then from the brain to the body, right? And that will create an emotion. It's really important to differentiate those when you're doing this work of experiencing emotions and feelings, and when you want to generate them on purpose to achieve a certain thing. So sensations are most of the time involuntary. They happen as a response to the body, and emotions may or not, maybe are conscious, or most of the time they're not conscious, because we're not conscious of our thoughts. We're not conscious of what we're thinking all day long. So we need to become much more aware of those sentences in our brain. We have about 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. So the idea when you want to master your emotions is to also think about, where observe your thoughts. Okay, so this is kind of another layer, right? Circumstances are completely neutral until you have a thought, and that then thought will create an emotion, a feeling within you. Okay, so this is kind of the first part of my talk, and now I want to dive deeper into my philosophy. I call it the 50-50 concept of emotions that I got taught by, several different teachers and spiritual masters. And I had to actually myself, struggled with it, because it created a lot of emotional resistance for me when I first discovered it. So I want you, when you listen to me, be very open and kind of just adapt the idea for a moment and see how you can use it in your everyday life. So if you look at your life like a pie, right? You'd look at it like a wheel of emotions, and you'd say, okay, this is kind of all of the emotions that I can experience in the world. And again, the alien would come down and you'd explain to him, like, these are the emotions that we experience. You look at this pie, and there's different feelings that we experience as humans. And when you ask people, most people, what do you want in life? Like, what do most people say? As I said earlier, if you actually ask them, they're not going to tell you, I want to feel better. They'll tell you, I want to feel happy. I just want to feel happy. I just want to feel peaceful. I just want to feel fine. And most of us are raised believing that the goal or the purpose of our lives in this kind of big emotional pie is to be happy most of the time, to be peaceful most of the time. And of course, it's not the reality, right? The reality is that we're not happy most of the time. And as I say, so most of the time it's about, and I didn't do this very well, but it's about 50-50. And so 50% of the time it's going to be positive, but the other 50% of the time it's going to be quite negative in our own understanding. And now if you go to spirituality, nothing is really positive and negative, nothing is really good or bad. But in for just this purpose, think about it as being a pie of 50-50. It's a kind of the normal human experience. And people always argue with me. They'll be like, why can't it be 80-20? Why can't it be 80% positive and 20% negative? And the fact that we want to negotiate it to 80-20 is actually pretty telling, because the way that we've been socialized and raised to believe is that the goal of our existence is to be happy. It's kind of the pursuit of happiness, right? If we could just find a way to be happy, then all of the things that we meant to do in our lives, that if we could get good grades and we go to college and we get married and we have kids and we have grandkids, we have a great job, or we do contribution, then we'll be happy. And so we keep on pursuing that happiness as kind of always like it's always pushing the horizon further. It's kind of, I call it the goal line. Like we've checked all the goal boxes, right? And many people I talk about, even they've been very successful. Remember, I work with a lot of CEOs and leaders. They'll tell me, Nina, well, I've achieved all of these great things and I'm still empty and still not fulfilled. What's wrong with me? Why am I not enough still? And so what we do usually is, because of this socialized beliefs, is try to find the happiness out there. If this whole thing can be happiness, we try to get external things to feel a certain way. And I want to tell you today that in my philosophy, we didn't come to the planet to be happy all of the time. And here's how I know it is that this is true, is because happiness doesn't exist if we don't have the opposite. Happiness doesn't exist if we don't see the contrast. If we're happy all of the time, we wouldn't even know that we're happy. We would be like fish in water. We wouldn't know what the water actually means. And maybe in a realm that we're not in right now because we're experiencing a human life, but maybe somewhere in the spiritual realm we could be experiencing bliss, but we didn't even know that it would be bliss, right? And this is actually why, in my opinion, we're actually coming down here on earth to experience the human experience, to see the contrast, right? We define stress by peace, by the opposite of it. And so in order to create all of the wonderful positive experience that we have in this world, we have to look at the opposite. My theory is that when we're in this non-physical realm, however you want to define it, when we are spiritual beings, we could embrace that idea of total bliss, like in this pure positive energy all the time. We wouldn't even know it, right? We wouldn't be able to be grateful for it. So because we've been taught or socialized to believe that we should be happy all of the time, and we have this kind of disconnection, right? We're like, why am I not there yet? And when we look on social media, all the Instagram and Facebooks of the world, we think that other people have figured it out and that the happiness exists somewhere out there. And we'll look at all the ads and commercials and they'll say, eat that, wear that, and then you'll finally be happy. Marry that guy, don't marry that guy. All the beautiful pictures of the people that seem to be so happy and smiling and thin and everything. And there was something wrong with us, right? This is what most of us are thinking. And then we try to avoid it at all costs. We try to make this negative pie smaller and smaller and smaller. And the way we do this, and I want you to write this down as well, the way we do this is by trying to avoid all of those emotions and to have more of the positive ones. Like, right, if this is a positive and this and the negative, we're like, let me experience all of this and let me try to minimize the negative ones. But what we end up doing is putting kind of a layer over here, which I call buffering, right? We're just buffering our life away because we're trying to escape a little bit the negative emotions, right? It's kind of the false pleasures. And this is why today so many of us are overdoing something. What happens is we don't want to feel the negative emotions, and so we're stressed or bored or upset or frustrated, whatever we experience, and we're like, oh my goodness, something's gone terribly wrong, something's completely wrong with me, and I should be feeling positive emotion all of the time, but I don't. So I avoid it by seeking pleasure outside of myself, by doing something that feels pleasurable, but actually is kind of an avoidance strategy. So what do? Well, eating food feels pleasurable, so we overeat. Drinking alcohol feels kind of pleasurable, so we overdrink. Most of us, that are kind of even on the healthy realm, like I've seen this so much with, over physical activity, over working, over shopping, over, gaming, over watching porn, over, doing on, like even running can be an escape from our emotions, right? Or being on our phones all of the time, because we get this little dopamine hit, right? When people like our stuff, or we get some a message. That's kind of the escape with negative emotions. So in our attempt to escape negative emotion, we're actually making this pie bigger. Can you see this, right? Like this becomes the buffering, right? We overeat, and then we're overweight and we feel uncomfortable. And then what we do is we buffer more. And our society has kind of made it very easy to do that, because, when you watch comedies or romantic shows, it's totally normal for teenagers to eat a bucket of ice cream to get over heartbreak, right? Because we don't know how to process negative emotions. We don't know how to process loss, or being by ourselves, or, not having a partner. And then we do all these things to escape it. We buffer, right? We kind of try to escape the negative emotion, which means in a way we need to buffer even more and even more and even more. So it's kind of this vicious circle of running away from our emotions and not being able to experience, right? It's the opposite of mastering the emotions, which is kind of our talk today. What else did I want to tell you? I think when we deny ourselves the feeling of positive or negative, we are kind of missing out on life. So I want to offer you that we need to learn how to stay within the negative emotion, learn how to not outwit it, not to try to get away from it, not try to escape it or buffer with it. And when we can be fully present with half of our life at the time, then it's not going to feel amazing, but it's going to feel whatever it's meant to feel, right? It's almost like when it's not what hurts, it's not experiencing the frustration or the anger or the loss, what hurts, it's the resisting of it. It's the thought, I shouldn't be experiencing that. I shouldn't be frustrated. I shouldn't have shame. I shouldn't have jealousy, all of these things that we kind of don't want to experience. And we're going to be so much more human, right? A full human life experience. This is kind of the untraining I feel we need to do. We have to train ourselves to process and feel and embrace negative emotion on purpose. Because our reaction to negative emotion typically is to solve it with something external. Oh, I'm not happy with my job. Let's just change jobs. Well, I'm really like, quit your job. Well, I'm not happy with my marriage. Well, just quit your marriage, change partners. I'm really unhappy with the course I'm taking. Well, just change courses. I'm really unhappy with my body. Well, change your body. Welcome, all the plastic surgeries and all those things, right? That's what most of us have been doing our whole lives, right? We've been chasing positive emotion and avoiding negative emotion. So the question that I get on this point is kind of like, okay, Nina, I get it. Now, what do I do? What do I do with this negative emotion? I clearly don't want to feel it, and I acknowledge it, and I see it more now. I'm aware of it. When we can't get things fast enough, we kind of get a little restless. That's when we tend to buffer. It's crazy, right? And so it's just we make our piles bigger of negative emotion. We keep on spinning. So what is the way out? To me, the way out is to experience the emotion. And now, if you're looking for some magic pill, there is none, right? You actually have to process it. And let's take, for instance, what is kind of an emotion that most people tell me, they'll say to me, Nina, like, I don't like feeling ashamed, right? That's a strong one, right? There's going to be, was a lot of research around shame. This feeling of there's something wrong with me, or no, I'm not enough, I'm not fitting in. So, a friend might come to you and say, I'm experiencing shame right now. In your immediate reaction, right, as a friend in the social society that we live in, is like, no, don't feel shame, feel something positive instead. Let me just get that shame away from you. Let's feel confidence instead. Let's feel acceptance instead. And again, most of us will try to avoid it to create a different results, right? But what if we didn't do that? What if we say, yes, shame. Yes, you're experiencing shame, my friend. This is part of the human experience. Tell me, how does shame feel in your body? Don't resist it. Don't push it away. Don't try to escape it. When you try to push it away, when you resist it, it actually grows. So when we move into it and we kind of like, I want you to imagine we're opening the door to it and we don't pretend it's not there. We don't try to put a mask and smile while we're experiencing shame, or we just allow it. We allow the experience of shame and we say, listen, this is my human experience. I kind of want to experience that experience as well. And then it changes a little bit. It's almost like once you learn how to embrace your negative emotion, and like loving your negative emotion makes the negative emotion smaller, right? It's not that such a big deal. What if we just sat in shame? And people tell to me like, Nina, that sounds terrible, but what we're doing instead is not serving us. Like we're escaping it and it gets bigger and bigger, and we're trying to get to the point that we're happy all of the time and it's not working, and we kind of intellectually understand it, but we still run after it. So now if we weren't afraid to feel shame and doubt and humiliation and frustration, what if we're willing to go towards these emotions? One of the things that I sometimes say to people, when they're on the brink of a transformation, they're very afraid to do something. And I'll tell them as their coach, is like, what's the worst that can happen? And when we talk through it, I was like, okay, what's the worst that can happen is a feeling, isn't it? The worst that can happen ever is an emotion. Think about the worst thing, right? Humiliation, terror. People think like, loss of a child, misery, loneliness, failure, heartbreak, all of these big emotions, self-loathing. If you remember that the emotion is just a feeling, a vibration in your body, then it's almost like, okay, it's literally just a vibration in my body right now. When you intellectualize it, but also when you integrate it in your body, you'll know it's a different concept. You'll instantly feel better without resisting the fear, the shame, and all of the negative emotions I just listed. Right? Again, think about that Martian, like this little guy that's coming out of nowhere, and he doesn't know how to experience emotion. They don't understand what emotion is, and he comes to you say, hey, I don't know what an emotion is, but it seems like you're really trying to avoid it. You're really trying to not feel it. And whenever you feel left out, and notice you're always like eating and smoking and drinking and doing something to not feel it, why do you do that? The Martian says. And you'd say like, well, it's kind of, it feels terrible. It's so bad. And the Martian will say, well, tell me, what is it that, how does it feel? Because I can't. And you'll tell me, well, I'm kind of getting hot and have the knot in my throat or in my stomach, and my heart starts pumping. And the Martian would be like, what do you mean? Are you on fire? Do you have blisters all over your face? Does it hurt? And you're like, no, it's not like that. It's just like a vibration. And this is what we're running away from. I really want you to picture this, right? Like what it feels like in your body to feel left out. When you describe it, it's not such a big deal. It will be like, oh, it feels a little bit heavy right there, and a little bit of buzzing, and I feel kind of tight in my chest, and a little bit queasy in my heartbeats. And the little Martian is like, that's it? That's what you're running away from? You don't have any scabs or any blisters or anything. So no, it's not that hot. It's kind of just a kind of, I'm a little bit ashamed. Like I feel it in my on my face, right? It's just a little hotness. We spend so much time and so much effort trying to avoid these little vibrations because people ask why, and it's really the reason is because our prehistoric brain basically thinks that we might die, right? Shame or loneliness, or when people talk on big stages and public speaking is one of those things that is rated almost on the same level as death, right? We think that if we are separated from society or something wrong, there's something wrong with us, that we're actually dying, right? Humiliation. Oh my gosh, I've been left out of the crowd. I'm going to die. People are going to leave me in the cave and go out hunt without me, right? Well, and I'm going to be eaten alive. This is what it means for our brains, right? Our survival brains. But we as human beings need to understand that with our prefrontal cortex, and this is really what separates us from the animal world, we can think on purpose, right? We can reflect and make decisions ahead of time and differently, right? When I'm telling you this right now, it feels maybe abstract, but my whole career, my whole life now is my willingness to be here, right? To be in the 50-50 and not to try to limit myself over here, like buffering and escaping from emotion. So yes, I experienced doubt and humiliation and shame and all of these emotions. And as soon as I set a big goal for myself, all the stuff comes up. What do you think you're doing? You're just, too young, too, not experienced enough. You haven't done this thing yet. No. All of the doubts, all of the fears come up. And I always remind myself that actually, Nina, this is exactly where you need to go. How do I experience a vibration? How do I experience an emotion without trying to escape it all the time? First, you understand there's nothing to be afraid of. What if you just let it be? Instead of pushing it away, resisting it, you open the door. You walk in the hallway of shame. Another image that helped me to picture this is if, right now we're doing all these vaccinations for COVID, like if I injected 10% of anxiety into you or 70% of anxiety to you, you wouldn't be like, oh my God, like right away, I'm going to overdrink, overeat. You'd be like, okay, I'm willing to experience this, right? I'm willing to experience that injection right now, because you would know it's part of an experience that you kind of like, if you're willing to experience it, right? But most of us don't want to experience frustration, so we run away from it. If you're like loneliness, frustration, I'm in. Okay, feelings are harmless. I mean, think about it. People even go to movies to be terrified, to get their heart broken. They kind of they go to horror movies. Like I always ask myself, like, why do people want to be afraid? Why do people want to be, those watch psychological dramas, right? You're going to the movies to experience that. You've been fine, but still doing it on purpose, right? Same thing with the syringe, right? If I put it in you and I'll tell you, you'll experience it for 60 seconds. Would you experience that emotion if I did that, right? Or would you start eating right away and grab a cigarette, right? That's interesting. This is what shame feels like. This is what anxiety feels like. So this is basically, the concepts that I wanted you to know today. And there's a talk I give about emotional adulthood versus emotional childhood, which is kind of like the second step to it when it comes to relationships, because many of us have questions around relationships and how do we handle relationships when it comes to emotions, because when we're in a society, we often try to kind of manipulate and make people feel something which we can't actually do, right? We're always responsible for our own emotions. We can never actually make somebody else feel anything without their permission, without them being conscious and having a thought about it. But today, and let's summarize this a little bit, I want you to walk away with a couple of very powerful concepts. The first thing being, your emotions are the reason why you do anything and everything, and all of your emotions drive all of your actions. I hope you wrote this down. This is really important. I wanted you to know that our emotional life is about 50-50, and it's on this by design like this. It's on purpose. We want to experience the contrast. We want to feel alive. We want to experience everything. Most of us are in the buffer zone, buffering our life away. And your purpose of your life is not to be happy all of the time, but to experience the good, the bad, and the ugly, and to evolve and to grow and to bloom in a bigger way and to contribute and to create value. If you're always trying to change, your model of thinking and always trying to get to the land of positivity, this is where you'll be in the hamster wheel of the pursuit of the happiness. Because when you have been in the land of positivity, and when you're there for a long time, like when people tell me, oh, I'm just content, I'm just happy, I'm always telling them you're not actually growing, you haven't set a big enough goal for yourself. You'll try to find the comfort most of the time, and most of us do this, like we've achieved some of the things and we kind of feel comfort, and then the desire for something else comes in, and it's totally fine because you want to grow and evolve and expand your horizon. But most of us want just to feel comfort because that's what our brain can relax, right? Like brain is like, oh, we're safe, there's Netflix and it's all good. But as soon as we start setting big goals for ourselves, that's when the fear and anxiety comes in. And that's also by design. This is our survival brain talking, and which means that we need to calm it down like we would calm down a toddler. And I was saying that our brain is like the toddler with a knife. It will do a lot of damage if we just let him run around wildly. So we need to have a toddler. So I'll just sit her down. It's like, give me the knife away. It's all going to be fine. Let's just draw. Let us create. Let's imagine something that we actually want to manifest in our life. So not running for pleasure, right? That's the one. Not going to, I call them like false pleasures, right? They're not really giving you the fulfillment you're seeking. That you're getting kind of like a little dopamine hit, and you're trying to make up for it. So experiencing negative emotions on purpose, opening the door, sitting with them. And that doesn't mean that you need to be in a quiet room. You can experience negative emotion while it's happening. Maybe at the beginning it will be a little bit tougher for you. And you'll need to distance yourself from a situation or from a relationship, but you can actually open up your heart and open up your mind. And just like sometimes I'll just tell myself, this is what shame feels like. This is what I'm frustrated right now. I'm sad, and I'm allowed to experience those emotions. There's nothing wrong with me. It's just human, right? How come people that want to be happy all the time are usually miserable all the time? Isn't it wild, right? And the other thing is that some of them will pretend to be happy, but they're in denial, right? We pretend to be happy, we pretend that we have it all together, and I always say, life is all of it. It's the good, the bad, and the ugly. So these are the concepts that I wanted to talk to you today about. And one of the exercises I want you to leave with after this talk is to ask yourself, what are the 3 top emotions, top 3 feelings that you're experiencing on a daily basis? And when you've done this, I want you to answer, take out another piece of paper and ask yourself, what are the 3 top emotions that I would want to experience on purpose? And if you have been paying attention to this talk and just a little hint, and you do it whatever you want, of course, you can experience all of the emotions, right? It's like an open buffet. I can experience any feeling at any moment, whatever it is I want, by managing my mind and imagining the purpose. But notice that sometimes in the feelings that you want to experience, it doesn't even have to be all of the time a positive one, right? Like for instance, I'll say to people, well, one of my top feelings that I want to experience is courage, which doesn't always feel as positive if you think about it, or discomfort, right? Like I want to be uncomfortable, not all of the time, but sometimes I do want to feel discomfort because it's going to help me grow. It's going to help me expand, and it's going to help me evolve as a human being, because I believe that this is why we're here. So this is what I have for you today. If you want to get in contact with me, if you want to explore this further, you can definitely contact me. My email is Nina, N-I-N-A, at Urman, URMAN.fr. I'm based out of beautiful Paris, and I'll definitely, get in contact with you. I don't do one-on-one coaching anymore, but what I offer is a group program called Reinvent Yourself on Purpose, where we kind of dive deeper in all of these topics. And there's many, many more around managing your mind and processing your emotions, taking courageous, massive action, as I call it, and then creating the results that you want in your life. And we also talk about the essence of who we are, because frankly, if you think about it, you're not your your thoughts, you're not your feelings, you're not even your actions or your results. You are the observer watching your life. You're the essence and the spirit kind of on the outskirts, observing your human reality. And of course, it feels very real, and this is why we have emotions. But part of my work is to bring it all together in a holistic experience for you and make it very easy for you to have an extraordinary life and to learn the process of how to feel better. There you go. I think you'll find this conversation useful. And now I'm happy to answer any questions or anything at all for the people that are here. And I'm sending you all my love, and I'll see you very soon.